America is an amazing country filled with wonderful people who do incredible things. But too often, the media and liberal politicians ignore big parts of our nation and the people who make it work. So I'm speaking with leaders and policymakers who deal with real problems every day. I'm RNC McDaniel, and this is Real America. Today, I'm going to be speaking with Louisiana Senator John Kennedy. We're going to cover everything from the Supreme Court to energy independence and rising inflation costs and how they're hurting the American people. Senator Kennedy, welcome to Real America. I'm so excited to have you. I've been trying to get you on my show for a long time now.
Well, I'm happy to be back in Real America. I've been in Washington, D.C. Now I'm in Real America.
We like that. Real America is a much better place to be, for sure. So I want to introduce you a little bit to folks who don't know you, although I think everybody knows you because you're absolutely one of the best senators to watch on TV.
Well,
you just say it like it is.
I have the right to remain silent, but I don't have the ability.
I like that.
I was born that way.
I'm going to say that to my husband next time. So give me a little bit of your background. How did you end up in the Senate? What was your path to get to where you are right now?
Well, I was raised in a little town outside of Baton Rouge.
Okay.
At the time, it was a small blue-collar town.
Okay.
Now it's much larger and much wealthier. But when I was there, it was a little small blue-collar town. A lot of people didn't like high school. I loved high school.
Did you really?
I loved high school.
What was your favorite subject?
Well, I cared about two things in high school. I cared about basketball and I cared about cheerleaders.
Oh, okay.
And I wasn't very good at either one, but it was so much fun trying. And, of course, I kept my grades up. Mom and Dad made me do that. And I went away to college and went away to law school, and then I clerked for a judge. And then I didn't want to go out in the real world, so I went to another law school and got another law degree, and I came back to New Orleans and was practicing law, and I got in politics by accident. We elected a reform governor.
Okay.
And he didn't have a lawyer. He said, "Kennedy, you helped me in the campaign. Come up here." I talked to my law partners, went up, I thought, for about 4 weeks, stayed 4 years.
No way.
Then I ran for state treasurer and was elected, was state treasurer for 17 years, and here I am in the United States Senate.
And how long have you been in the Senate?
This 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
How do you like it? What are the things that you like, and what are the things you could leave?
My colleagues are the most interesting people I think I've ever been around.
Really?
And I mean that. Wide assortment of folks. My approach to politics, I'm not criticizing anybody else's, Ronna, but I don't hate anybody. I don't.
I love that.
I look for grace wherever I can find it, and there is always something to be thankful for.
Oh.
I don't mind other points of view. That's my disagreement with the wokers. Who will not tolerate other points of view. I believe that you're not really free if you can't say what you think.
Exactly.
And you're not free if you can't say what's on your mind.
It's so true.
The Senate can be frustrating because you want to gallop, but you just kind of got to inch along. Sometimes that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way of controlling passions. But I will tell you, in the Senate, you'll have good days, you'll have bad days, you'll never have a dull day. And a lot of big egos now.
There are some egos.
Yeah,
I've met a few of them.
I'm convinced most of my colleagues believe in God and the rest think they are God.
You won't tell me which ones, though.
And all of them think that there ought to be a Broadway play named after them, like Hamilton.
Yeah. That they're going to be the Hamilton in 100 years.
They think somebody ought to be singing on Broadway about them. But that's part of what makes the place interesting.
That makes sense.
And I tell my folks back home, you don't have to be crazy to serve in the Senate. They have several people that will train you.
If you had your Broadway play about you, who would you have play you?
Oh, gosh.
Who would be John Kennedy in your Hamilton?
That'll never. I would either have. I'll tell you.
I think you could have a Broadway play.
I'll tell you who two. I'm not going to answer that because I know I'll never have a Broadway play named after me. But I'll tell you, two of my favorite actors, and this will date me, but one is Jeff Bridges.
Okay.
And the other is Denzel Washington.
Oh, I know.
Denzel Washington came by my office. He was lobbying for Boys and Girls Club, and he was very active in Boys and Girls Club growing up.
That's wonderful.
He devotes his time and donates his money. He came up to talk to a few senators, and I can state categorically, unequivocally, Denzel Washington is one of the 5 coolest people in the world.
Was he nice
He
too?
is incredibly nice.
Really?
He showed me some videos from his cell phone. He just shot a Western, and he said, Kennedy, being on a horse is kind of tricky. I hadn't been on a horse, but we talked about that. But just the nicest down to earth.
I love his movies.
But he is very, very cool.
Very cool. What a great job you have. You get to meet Denzel Washington. That's worth being in the Senate just for that. I like Jeff Bridges,
I'm
too.
not leaving the Senate till I get to meet who was in Star is Born.
Oh, Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga.
You want to meet Lady Gaga?
That's who I want to meet.
You like everybody?
Yeah, I love everybody.
Okay.
But, I thought Lady Gaga
But Lady Gaga's when you
was
retire.
really cool in the Stars.
Okay. Well, the Democrats are going to say, we're going to bring Lady Gaga by. And
of course, I also like The Godfather. That was one of my favorite
that's a good movie, too.
And I love Pulp Fiction.
Do you really?
Yeah, sometimes the Senate is like a scene from Pulp Fiction.
How is the Senate like a scene from Pulp
Well,
Fiction?
you've seen Pulp Fiction. It's just
I have
kind of
seen
a little offbeat.
It is very offbeat.
But anyway.
That is so funny.
I'm getting us both.
I love it. My
involved,
husband loves
probably.
Pulp Fiction, too. All right, so I want to go back to your history as a state treasurer.
Okay.
And obviously, you understand fiscal responsibility.
Yeah.
What do you think's going on in Washington? What do you think we need to do to rein it in, the fiscal spending and the things that we're worried about with the debt and the deficit?
I'll tell you a quick story. After we passed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which was working
Yes.
and would have proven to be ultimately successful had not COVID hit. But after we just passed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, we knew we'd have some short-term deficits. And I sit on appropriations. We had a full appropriations committee meeting, about 35 of us. And I looked down there, and they had a pay raise for federal employees. And I said, we just passed these tax cuts. We know we're going to have a short-term deficit before the benefit kicks in. Now's not a good time to be giving people a pay raise. So I made a motion. I said, I explained myself. This year, maybe we ought to postpone the pay raise. I got 2 votes.
Really?
I looked at, I knew most of my Democratic friends would vote against me. All of my Republican colleagues but one, Cindy Hyde-Smith from Mississippi. I looked at them, trying to make eye contact, and they all of a sudden had an important text. And here's my point. Everybody up here, Ron, talks a good game about we need to be fiscally responsible. We need to look for waste in the budget. And the federal budget's like a cow. There's not a big chunk of fat there. The fat is marbled throughout the animal.
Oh, that makes sense.
And it's work to go in and look for it, but everybody knows it's there. And everybody says we ought to get rid of the waste. But for everybody except for a couple of people, it's like going to heaven. Everybody wants to go to heaven. But if you say, okay, let's take the trip, they go, no, I'm just not quite ready to make the trip. and it really, it's very sad sometimes.
Because aren't you worried? I mean, what is the long-term concern we have about the ballooning deficit and debt?
Well, first, even if we didn't have a lot of debt, people worked hard for this money. I mean, I've driven all over Washington. I can't find the money tree.
Mm-hmm.
People worked hard for this money. And even if we had no debt, we shouldn't waste it. That's point one. But point two, we do have a lot of debt. And this debt has got to be paid back.
Exactly.
And it's so large, it's going to have to be paid back by our children and our children's children. And having debt that large also means that you're probably wasting money. And we do waste a lot. It can also impact the strength of the dollar. One of the strengths, national security and otherwise, of America is the strength of our dollar. Everybody wants greenbacks.
Yes.
But if you get too much debt and people start to have doubts about the value of your currency, I mean, there are a whole host of problems. Plus, it causes inflation.
That's the other thing. And that's part of the reason we're in this situation to begin with.
You don't have to be Mensa material to figure out why we have inflation. It's very simple. It's Bidenomics.
Yep.
Now, the president has blamed inflation on everything. He blamed inflation on COVID, okay? I'll admit that COVID spreads, but I don't see people going around coughing inflation on each other. Nobody believes it. Then he blamed inflation on the business community. He says there's a bunch of greedy women and men and small businesses price gouging. Then he blamed it on unemployment.
Exactly.
I wouldn't faint if the president came out tomorrow and said, "I finally discovered the origin of inflation. It originated in a bat." I mean, that's the way
in a wet market.
Yeah, in a wet market. That's the way the way this White House thinks, and their economists will tell them privately, "You got too much money chasing too few goods." And this inflation has characteristics of both demand pull inflation and cost push inflation. And President Biden has gotten us in this place. We told him on that last COVID bill, $1.9 trillion. We told him, no Republicans voted for it. He did it anyway, and that's why we have raging inflation.
I think it's important to remember that the previous 3 COVID bills were bipartisan.
They were.
Biden came in under Trump. They were bipartisan. Biden came in, passed this COVID bill without bipartisan support. Jerome Powell said the inflation was transitory. This was going to go away. I'm just telling you, the American people, it is not transitory in their lives right now.
No,
it's happening.
It's gutting the American people.
It's gutting
like
people.
A fish.
Anywhere you go to the grocery store, it's more. Everywhere I go,
it's horrible.
It's horrible.
It's the most perverse tax imaginable. It's gutting our people,
and it's hurting
like
the people
a fish.
who could afford it the least.
And it can be fixed.
It
can absolutely be.
So how would you fix it?
Here's what I do. First, and it's what I think the Federal Reserve is going to have to do. They're going to have to raise interest rates. They are.
Yep.
Now, they've got to calibrate it right, because you want to raise them high enough to slow inflation, but you don't want to throw us into a recession.
Yep.
Okay. Number 2, one of the leading causes of inflation, not the only cause, but the leading cause is gasoline prices. We could be energy independent. We were energy independent.
We were.
Here's the problem in terms of the America's energy policy today under the Biden administration. The oil is in Louisiana and Texas and Oklahoma and other states. The dipsticks are in Washington, D.C., okay?
It's true.
And it's true. And the Biden administration's new energy policy is, let's forget about being energy independent. We're going to throw that away. Instead, we're going to take money and we're going to give it to foreign countries, so those foreign countries that hate us will have more money. They'll sell us their oil, but they'll have more money to buy weapons to try to kill us.
Exactly.
Okay?
We're literally funding.
That is it's all because
with Russia and Iran.
Yeah. And it's all because the president has decided he wants to try to win the uber-left neo-socialist sweepstakes. And he's doing a great job of winning the sweep.
I'm going to say
he's won it. I give him that. But that's also why his poll numbers are on a journey to the center of the earth, because they think the American people are morons and won't figure it out. Now, you know about the American people. They're busy earning a living. They don't have time to read Aristotle every day.
No.
But eventually, they've got a really good BS barometer, and they have figured this guy out.
Well, what does it mean just for Louisiana? Because your state alone with the energy independence, what does it cost your state with what he's done with this terrible policy? It costs us
billions, and it costs us jobs, and it's more than just the numbers. There's an arithmetic side, but there's a people side to this. Well, when you cost somebody their job, you cost them their dignity. You cost them their ability to feed their family. You cost them their self-worth. If you don't have a job, you're not healthy, you're not happy, you're not free.
You cost them their hope.
Cost them their hope,
for the future.
Cost them their hopes and their dreams.
Yes.
And President Biden knows better. He absolutely. We could fix this we could hit inflation a good lick, and fix this energy problem within. We could get started tomorrow. But the president's got to take his boot off the neck of the oil and gas industry. And the third thing we got to do to get control of inflation, I've said this to my colleagues yesterday in a Republican luncheon. Stop spending money we don't have.
Like every other family in America.
Yeah.
Right? Every household.
Yeah. They're talking about yet another COVID bill.
I saw that.
Okay. And behind that, they're going to ask us to appropriate $250 billion to fight China. And next, watch President Biden, who I didn't think he could open the border anymore, but he's about to. After people start flooding in, none of whom we know, he's going to come to us and say, "I need about $50 billion to stop the flow."
Really?
I think
you're
shame
right.
on Republicans if they vote for it. We're worse than drunk sailors. At least drunk sailors stop when they run out of money.
Yeah.
And it's not going to get better, Ronna, until
And the hangover is not great.
No.
It's not great. And I think I love what you're saying. And I know you're not just a legal scholar, but obviously being a treasurer, but you're common sense, but you get what people are feeling. And they are smart. They do realize the gas prices are coming because Joe Biden is refusing to tap American energy. And you know how they know? Because you're right. We did it.
Yeah.
We did it. We were energy independent.
I went, Becky and I have one car. I'm up here so much we don't need two cars, but I took her car the other day to fill it up. My car fainted. It looked, I mean, you look at the prices. A year ago, I think gas in Louisiana was $2.20, $2.30 a gallon. And this is way before Putin invaded.
Way before the invasion.
It's over $4.
Oh my God.
My people can't afford that.
You can't. It limits everything.
And that's
you do.
why here's what most Americans, I think, are saying right now. Most fair-minded Americans. They're saying, look, we're looking at this situation with President Biden. And here's our conclusion. Republicans are not perfect. But
What?
the other side's crazy. They're crazy. And
Yeah.
that's why I think we're going to take
Well,
back.
I say this is an election of common sense versus crazy.
Yeah.
Because it is common sense that we should use American energy. It is common sense that parents should have a say in their kids' school. It is common sense. A lot of the things that we should have strong police departments and we shouldn't defund the police. These are common sense things that we're running on. We're not talking about crazy things. But when voters are coming to November and saying, well, do we give Republicans back the Senate and the House? Is it really going to fix things? Can they really fix it? What's your answer to that?
My answer is watch what people do, not what they say, and look at what we've done, what we did when we had control of the presidency and the House and the Senate. We cut taxes. We increased wages. We created about 8 million new jobs pre-COVID. We had the lowest unemployment rate for African Americans and Hispanics in the history of this country. We deregulated the economy. We beat back ISIS. We secured the border. We secured our streets. We strengthened the military. We stood up to Russia and China, and we confirmed 234 new members of the federal judiciary who will not try to rewrite the Constitution every other Thursday to satisfy some political agenda. And we can do it again.
And if we take it back, we're a check on this runaway train of Joe Biden.
And it would be the best thing that ever happened to Joe Biden, because then he could turn to the wokers and say, look, I can't help you anymore, okay? I don't have the votes. But I mean, I'm sure President Biden doesn't see it that way, but here's the problem. Am I talking too much?
No, I love it.
Okay, here's the problem.
I could listen to you all day.
Here's why President Biden's in trouble. He won among independents, and the independents thought President Obama was a moderate. Now, you can debate that, but they did. The independents said President Obama was not moderate. So they said, well, we're going to vote for Joe Biden because we think he's the second coming of Barack Obama. Mm-hmm. But what they got was the second cousin of Bernie Sanders. And they're not happy. Bernie tested negative for president. They didn't vote for him. And so here they are with this guy that they thought they knew who's trying to win the woke sweepstakes. All of a sudden, he wants to turn every cop into a social worker. He wants to open the border. He wants to take away their rights to own a gun and defend themselves. If you disagree with his woke legislation, you're a racist.
Exactly.
And they're going, come on.
It's crazy. And so I think you're right. And what I love is you just articulated exactly what it means if you vote for Republicans. I know you're on the ballot this year too, Republicans in the Senate and the House. We can take it back. I want to flip to something else.
Well, you guys are doing a great job, and gals doing helping us take it back.
You can call me guys. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm using generic. I don't know, guys, gals, it. What am I supposed to say anymore? I don't know.
You can just call me Rana. But we're really, I want to talk about something else that you do in the Senate, which is your background, which is Judiciary Committee. You've trained, you went to UVA, studying in Oxford. What do you think about, first, this philosophy of stacking the Supreme Court that the Democrats absolutely would push if they got rid of the filibuster?
I think it's like a rock, only dumber.
Yeah.
And it's a perfect example of the neo-socialist woke left. They don't get their way, so they want to beat the crap out of the system. And
exactly.
Destroy it.
I don't think people totally understand when we say stack the Supreme Court. And somebody said to me, you got to finish the sentence, and people don't get this in this country. It would fundamentally change our entire country and our government. Yeah. And then we just had a Supreme Court nominee come through. Tell me about that process and what's your criteria, or what do you look for when you're vetting a Supreme Court nominee?
Well, here's what I look for. I want a nominee who's intelligent. I want a nominee who is very well versed in the law, and I meant what I said earlier, Ron. I want a nominee and ultimately a justice who's not going to try to rewrite the Constitution every other Thursday to advance a social or economic agenda that the voters won't accept.
Exactly.
I'm rather fond of the Constitution. We all are.
Me too.
I think it means something, and it doesn't mean that if you can put together 5 votes on the Supreme Court, you can rewrite it. In terms of Judge Jackson, I spent 22 hours with her. I was there every second. Here's my conclusion, and here's why I'm going to vote no. She's very intelligent. Judge Jackson's very well versed in the law. Judge Jackson is very deft and artful in the ability to speak for hours without saying anything whatsoever of substance on critical questions. She dodged every important question.
She really did, including what's the definition of a woman.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, she dodged every question. And that's how I've seen Republicans do it too. I'm not just putting it on her, but that's how White Houses coach them. So I had to go, which I would have done anyway, read her opinions. That's why I say what you do is what you believe. And I read her opinions. And after reading her opinions, my conclusion is that she's very much a judicial activist. Mm-hmm. I see the law, a judge's role, as telling us what the law is as passed by Congress.
By the legislature.
She wants to tell us what the law ought to be. And that's the definition of a judicial activist. And I can't vote for her. And I'm not.
I think that is such a big distinction, and I think that's really what's separating us from Democrats. Democrats look at the courts as a way to further their agenda past what they didn't get in the legislature and change the law through the courts, and we really want the courts to interpret the law as it's written.
Well, let me give you 2 concrete examples.
Okay.
Let's say the right to assisted suicide, or the right of a transgender woman to play in women's sports.
Okay.
Now, who ought to make those 2 decisions? Should the United States Supreme Court, unelected people for life? I can promise you, I've read it, neither one of those issues are addressed in the Constitution.
I don't think so.
So if they're going to rule their fundamental rights one way or the other, they're going to have to read it into the Constitution. Does America want to decide value judgments that way, or do you want to elect people to Congress or to a legislature who you can hold accountable and let them make the decision? And I think our founders intended those kind of value judgments to be made by the people.
Exactly. And then you can unelect them, or you can there's always a recall option, which is an election.
Absolutely.
And you can vote, you can choose not to vote for that person again.
And that's what this fight is all about. It's not about stripping away your right to free speech. That's in the Constitution. It's in the Bill of Rights. It's the right of the federal judiciary to say, I know it's not in there, but I'm going to read this fundamental right into the Constitution rather than letting people vote.
It's the checks and balances, the three branches of government. We're running out of time. I could listen to you all day. I think you're fascinating. I love seeing you on TV. But what I also love is that you say it like it is, and I think the American people appreciate that. It was funny. I saw a quote where somebody gave you a piece of advice. Is they said, "Be yourself unless you suck," which I thought was about
That's kind of my philosophy.
But I love that advice. But
sometimes I say, always be yourself unless you can be Batman or Batwoman.
That my son would love that. He loves Batman. But this is an important election that we're heading into. We've seen what the Democrats will do with absolute power.
We're playing with live ammunition here.
We are. We're playing with live ammunition.
What only 14 months of President Biden, who is completely given in to the left of Lenin neo-socialist woke cupcakes.
And people didn't know he was going to be that. His inaugural speech didn't say that. He said all these wonderful flowery things. His actions have been different, not what you say, what you do. What would you say to people to give them optimism and hope heading into this election? Because there are some Republicans who are like, it doesn't matter. It's not going to make a difference. What would you say to get out and what is at stake in this election?
Here's what I would tell them. I would tell them first, and I hear this all the time from Republicans and Democrats. They say, look, Kennedy, politics gotten so nasty, I'm too smart to get mixed up in politics. This is America. If that's what you want, do it. But if that's the case, you're destined to be governed by people dumber than you.
It's true.
So first you got to get involved, okay? And you've got to go vote. And I know it's hard sometimes because they'll try to cancel you and talk about your mama and call you names, but say what you think. You're not free if you can't express yourself. And this is what I'd say to my friends in the middle. I mean what I say. I don't hate anybody. I've got friends who are liberal, conservative, apolitical. I'm up here. I'm up here every day. As bad as it looks from the outside, you should see it from the inside. And Republicans aren't perfect. God knows Republicans aren't perfect. But too many people now on the other side, they're crazy. They're crazy.
Yeah.
And many of my Democratic friends know that, but they're scared to speak up. And President Biden, he's just totally given in. I don't know how he walks without a spine.
Well, and
that's what this race is all about.
But you love this Constitution and you love this country. And I believe this, and I say this, it's not rhetoric, it's not a talking point. You know, we have these platitudes we say every election, this is the most important election. I believe that if we don't win this election, we will not have the same country on the
Well, I do too. I mean, we can't handle it.
But I love this country. This isn't a job for me. This is something I believe in, and I know you do. Talk about the greatness of America. What are we fighting for? We are in the greatest nation on earth. We are so blessed to live here, and this is what this election's about.
America is the greatest country in all of human history. Now, look, we are big, wide, open, diverse, sometimes dysfunctional, often imperfect, but good country.
We are.
I cannot imagine what this world would be like without the United States of America. And I can't promise you that those of us who fight for it every day are going to win every fight, but by God, I'll promise you I will refuse to be beaten. This country is worth fighting for. And I get so angry when my woke colleagues say America's wicked. It was wicked when it was founded. It's even more wicked today. It's racist. It's misogynistic. All you people are ignorant. You know, shame on them. They know better.
They do know better.
But they think that, well, only the federal government can make America great. You know what made America great? Ordinary people doing extraordinary things. That always will be the case and always will.
And this is that election where ordinary people are going to determine.
We're down to it.
Ordinary people are going to save the most extraordinary nation. And this is that election. Thank you for everything you do for our country.
Ronnie,
I think you're great.
Thank you for all you're doing. You really a big help. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Senator. Thanks for joining me.
I'm Ronna McDaniel, and this is what Republicans stand for. Join us next time on Real America.